Yeah, this is the C-Town Rivals podcast. Each and every week during football season, yes, we get after it. We get after it like our teams, like nobody else. This week, 7 wins and 1 loss, like a blanket. We got you covered. Ralph Amson is actually on assignment, so it's just myself and Adam Beadle this week. And yeah, we're going to knock it out. And Adam, always good to chop it up with you during the football season. We get to chop it up twice, actually. But I think above all, over the weekend, there was a scare out in Iowa. One of our own who essentially, I'm going to say he's your age. I believe he's your high school class. I mean, different high schools, but same year. Blake Heffron, he seemingly he's well, something we did not think 4 days ago.
Yeah, Blake was, we haven't talked a lot since high school ended, but he was a guy I saw pretty frequently, ran into quite a bit, obviously both being at schools in Arizona Avenue. And Blake was actually one of the few, I don't know if I've told a lot of people this story. Blake is one of the few quarterbacks who I guess went on to the next level that I played against. I didn't play tackle in high school, but I did play flag football in middle school. And at the time, when I was in 8th grade, there was a new school being built in Queen Creek called Eastmark, and Blake was the quarterback for Eastmark's. They say it was an 8th grade team, and I'm pretty sure it was basically a JV football team at that point in time because all they had was the middle school and a freshman class. And we played these guys, and like there is no way that this team is an 8th grade team, and they were skilled, they were talented, and the starting quarterback on that team was Blake Heffron, and that kid was a baller since day one, running all over the field, throwing deep balls, and so when I heard about that this went down, my heart just kind of hurt for a second because it's somebody that I knew. It's somebody I've called a friend. And I think at the end of the day, just super glad to see how God worked in that situation and through all the prayers and seeing him. That video of him that McCabe posted on Twitter, I believe it was through his dad's Facebook, of him just moving his hands and talking and just – I think the biggest thing from that video is he had a smile on his face.
That's right.
And I think that speaks so much as, life is tough and there's a lot of situations you go through. And obviously Blake's situation was a bit of a scare. And to see him sitting there with a smile on his face is just truly incredible. So praying for him. I hope he gets well fast. I hope he recovers quickly. And it's good to see that he's in good spirits.
Absolutely, because when I saw that video, my first thought was his speech was going to be slurred a little bit because it was a brain scenario. But no, he was alive and well. He gave the thumbs up. He was, like you said, smiling, laughing. And with that, we will smile and laugh. And we'll talk about Chandler a little bit later on. But we'll start off with the Seton Catholic Sentinels. The red and gold, they defeat the Dysart Demons 31-16. They even their mark at 3-3. Coree Edwards, sophomore running back, over 100 yards. He finds his way into the end zone, which is great. They are up big in this game, but ahead 24-16 late in the game. They had to get a pick 6 for the final margin of win. But the big thing is they got the W.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked about, how young this team is time after time. And I think some of us, including myself, thought that the Sentinels would fare a bit better moving down a conference than they have. But given their situation, I think where they're at this point in the season is perfectly acceptable and great to see. And they're going to be a much better team in the next few years, mainly just because of how well coached they are. But you have to look at the pieces of what that team will be over the next couple of years. Obviously, the young guys. Coree Edwards, you mentioned him, an absolute demon last week. He had 28 carries for 157 yards and a touchdown. And defensively, they've got young guys stepping up too. Lucas Jimenez, who's been a dog that's been killing it all year. He's only a sophomore as well. So I think this week, Seton really has to find a way for their passing game to get going. Valley Christian has performed well as pass defense this season. And I think Seton has got to find a way to get it clicking and finally get some deep balls going down the field. I know we'll talk a little bit more about this matchup in just a second.
Absolutely. Indeed, it does seem that Seton Catholic wins the games they're supposed to, but against teams that are quote unquote at least better on paper, they seem to falter, hence their 3-3 record. The Valley Christian Trojans, indeed, they lose their first contest of the year. Ben Franklin, the Chargers, really get the best of them, 35-6. The lone score in this one was Austin Shooter's touchdown pass to Asher Handel, 61 yards, nice connection. That's always good, but too much Landon Stetka for Ben Franklin on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Quarterback Gavin Weiler, he was sharp when he needed to. This Chargers team is good at it.
Yeah, and I hate to use
really good. They apparently run Chandler back-to-back wins.
Yeah, and I hate to use the word dismantled, but that's kind of what happened to Valley Christian against Ben Franklin. But I think it proves a point that Ben Franklin really is the team to beat in 3A right now. They're asserting their dominance against everyone, even Seton Catholic as well. They had a huge win over the Sentinels. I talked with Coach Peterson after the game on Thursday. I got to see just about the fourth quarter. Almost said fifth quarter. Just got to see about the fourth quarter. And for Valley Christian, I think, we've seen so many parts of their game this season. In game one against Sabino was how well their defensive line played and how we really saw this run game open up. In the next game, it was holding their opponent to no points and just really escaping with the win. And ever since then, we've seen, I feel like, a different part of Valley Christian's game emerge over the last couple of weeks. So I think you look at a game against a team like Seton, who's coming off a win. No, this game means a lot to them. Obviously, it means a lot to both teams being in Chandler. This is a rivalry game in its own. Both of these teams are going to want to come out and get a W. And I think for Valley Christian, if they want to come out and get a big win here, they're going to need to put all of the pieces that they've been orchestrating throughout the season together and formulate a complete game. And I think if they can do that in this one, then that's only going to propel them further as we get into the rest of the year and potentially into the playoffs where they might see teams like Ben Franklin again.
Indeed, they are the rivalry game. You definitely said it best. And this is the type of game that Valley Christian needs, as we've kind of alluding to. They need that. They don't need any motivation. That's for sure. We saw it happen last week. But playing your neighborhood kids, it gets that second gear going for Valley Christian and Seton Catholic. It'll be cool. All these games have been lopsided in years past, even before we were doing this podcast. The games have been lopsided. Definitely want to thank Paula Hutchison for some of that information. He went way back and dug through some Seton books. So yeah, it'll be fun to be out there. I'll get to broadcast that game actually. So to see two teams that we're both familiar with get after it on the same gridiron, that will certainly be a lot of fun. And it's one of those things where we hate seeing either team fall short. It really is when these 8 teams get after it in some way, shape, or form against each other. We move on to a team that we have grown very fond of, the Arizona College Prep Knights. Look at this team go. They defeat the Gilbert Tigers, Derek Zellner's old squad, 44-21. They are 5-0 on the season. Offensively, I love it. The team is starting to show a 3-headed monster, something they were very effective with last year. Max Sasso, he leads the way. Ja'Cory Horn, Jeremiah Diaz, 23 carries between them, 186 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. What I like is they're taking some of the pressure off the quarterback. We do hope to see Heinrich come back as well.
Well, first I'll ask you, Brett, who would have thought that we'd be saying this ACP team is undefeated midway through the season? They haven't even had their starting quarterback for all their games. Who would have thought?
Right. 5-0 at 5A. That's impressive.
Right. And moving up a division, all these challenges faced in front of them, and yet the buy-in from these players, these coaches, we've said it time and time again. I feel like I mention it every single week on this podcast, and that's because it's just so true. It's so true. The buy-in is absolutely there. And Gunnar Schmidt, 7-19, 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. He stepped up big time. And the way these seniors have stepped up on both offense and defense, taking those leadership roles, has been huge. And I feel like that is always the biggest part of this ACP team. It's year after year, it feels like there's a group of seniors that really have what it takes to lead this ACP team. I think it was most evident last season, making the run to the 4A state championship, but it's even more evident this season, seeing a new coach, a bit of a new system, and moving up a conference, being able to see what they've been doing. I have no doubt, though, that this is going to be the toughest test for ACP yet. You're facing a team in Mountain Point who has had its ups and downs in the years, but seems like maybe they're finally starting to figure things out. And not only that, but do they get some transfer additions this week as well? I think Mountain Point is really going to force ACP to play more of a tempo offense. And what I mean by that is the Pride defensive line is big. And ACP is going to have to quickly make plays offensively and march down the field. And I think another thing is getting the lead early. I think that's something we've seen ACP do a lot this season, is assert their dominance early on in the game. For the Knights, is being able to assert that dominance and sustaining it to the end. You're going to be facing against some high-level Division I prospects. Granted, Desert Mountain was a really good team, but they did not have the top-tier level of talent that I believe Mountain Point does. And so it's really going to provide a big test for how much speed and athleticism this ACP Knights team is going to face.
But before I want to roll it back a little bit about just the buy-in. It's a term that you've used a lot, and a term that truly is effective. This is going to sound weird when I say, where did it come from? We both live essentially in the area. It's right around
in my backyard
of our houses. We've seen the school go through a couple of head coaches. We've seen them win. I'll be the first to say that when they brought on Derek Zellner, it's like, all right, hey, he's cool. He's an experienced coach, that sort of thing. I did not expect, the 5-0, I don't think anybody expected, but the enthusiasm that he has brought is really what surprised me.
Yeah, and to be honest, there really is no explanation for it. A coach that I guarantee you most of these kids on this team didn't really know anything about. Right. This dude's been coaching since the 90s, and none of these kids were even alive when Derek Zellner started coaching. So I get the perspective of how it's very hard for, not maybe very hard, but it's interesting to understand how a coach that was, up until he took the job, considering retirement, wants to come in and not have to, turn a program around. This program's already in the right direction, but it deals with an immense challenge of being able to play 5A football. And you said it, ACP, they've come in, they've exceeded expectations. And if I'm being quite honest, I can't really draw a finite pinpoint to where did this come from. I think you just got to look at the success this team had last season coming into the next season and going, you know what? It doesn't matter that we've got a new head coach. We are the same ACP team. We're ready to take on challenges. And like I mentioned, the senior group, it seems like ACP always has a senior group that comes through and asserts themselves as those leaders.
Yes.
They have a really fantastic group of leaders this season, and a quarterback who was one of the best quarterbacks in 4A. And even with him gone, they are still succeeding. So I think the biggest part about this Knights team and how they've gotten to this point is that they don't genuinely, it seems like they don't care about the adversity. They're going to face it. They could give less of a crap if they go down in a game. They're still going to fight back and try back and win. And they haven't even been in that situation this season. But that's the vibe it feels like. Is this ACP, you could throw something at them and they'll be ready to take it any day of the week at any time, ready to go.
And indeed, they will play Mountain Point, as you said, perhaps their toughest test physically. First time between these two schools that they will meet on the gridiron. The Casteel Colts, they improved their record to 3-2 with a 13-10 win over the Mesa Jackrabbits. Adam, defense seemed to be the key in this one. They forced a couple of fumbles by Mesa's Israel Reyes. They blocked the field goal attempt late in the game to secure the victory. Not a whole lot to go on in this game, but the fact that Casteel is over the 500 mark at this point in time, midway through the year, that's great.
Huge win for Casteel. I think this is another team I think in ways has proven us a bit wrong this season, just coming in with some of the preseason noise and stuff like that, not knowing how Joe Bushman was going to lead this squad or how this team was going to truly perform. But who are we to doubt Joe Bushman, who's come in and done a phenomenal job leading this program, stepped away from college to coach high school football. And the biggest thing for me, talking to Coach Bushman during the preseason, throughout the summer, especially 7-on-7 tournaments, the biggest thing he talked to me about was, we really just haven't found the guys that have stepped up yet, have been the leaders, have been the guys that want to lead this team. But it seems like through the midway point of the season, Casteel's got a couple of guys that have rallied around each other, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They've been able to put up some big performances and a big win against a very physical Mesa team. And a Mesa team is going to look a lot different this week.
Yeah, they are.
Just what the job that Joe Bushman has done leading this group, and Gunnar Choi as well. He's done a phenomenal job over the last couple of weeks. Stepping into a role, I think, for him was a little unexpected, maybe just 2 weeks before the start of the season, with Link Frazier moving to Texas. The big thing for Casteel now, they probably get their starting quarterback. They get their starting quarterback back in T. Smith. It's going to be interesting to see what more they accomplish offensively. And I think the biggest thing for the Colts, they get a much-needed bye week. This is a team that's been through a lot. You play 2 out-of-state opponents, and then it's just playing some of the most physical 6A teams in the state. After that, this is going to be a much-needed break for the Colts, and I only expect them to continue to climb as we get into the rest of the season, and we'll see how more well-rounded the Colts team looks after the break.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Their next game will be on October 10. The Perry Pumas, they're now 3-2 on the season after blowing out Corona del Sol 44-13. This is finally the type of game that we were looking for out of Kael Snyder. 22 of 29, 291 in the air, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he threw a pick, but so do all quarterbacks. This is what we wanted to see. Amos Augustine and Max Wendell Schaefer each over 100 yards. He's using his weapons. We want to see those high passing yards, and he truly came to compete on Friday night. Great to see.
Yeah, I think the Pumas are finally hitting their stride. They're finally hitting a groove, and I think it's at the perfect time. Perry also has a bye week coming up this week, and when they come back, it doesn't really get any easier. I'll talk about that in a second. But yes, Kael Snyder continues to get better and better week after week. I might even go on the record and say that this was, in my opinion, Snyder's best performance of his high school career from a passing perspective. 22 of 29, 291 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. Yep. He's got over 1,000 yards now in the season, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. It seems to me, as Brett, that Kael now getting in the groove is exactly what Perry needed and exactly what they'll need heading into the rest of the season.
And I think that gives him confidence because he hadn't really had back-to-back games like this.
Yeah.
And the fact that he can build off of that, and like we said, he has the bye week to obviously prepare for the Chandler Wolves, which we'll get to. But he can build off of this first half of the season. So I really like what's going on. I know Joe Ortiz is happy with their last 2 games. He's got to be.
And it's not going to get easier for the Pumas, in all honesty. Like you mentioned, They've got Chandler. They faced a really competitive team in Westwood. And then you take on a new Mesa team and a South Point Catholic in Basho. So this is a tough stretch for
road games
Perry.
too.
Most of them road games. They're going to have to fight. It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. The latter end of the year, I think they'll find themselves sneaking into one of those top 10 spots in the 6A playoffs, and to see how they handle that, to see how they line up in that position will all be based off how they finish off the rest of this year. And
especially, as you said, that scheduling is going to help them playing the Mesas of the world that we think will be significantly better, but more so Chandler, the points, the power points is going to help them come 6A seeding.
Yeah.
The Chandler Wolves, domination. That's what's up. It's domination. They crushed the Eagles 49-10. Sandra Day O'Connor goes down. Will Mencl, he's playing out of his mind. Arizona Avenue has 2 amazing quarterbacks, and I'm going to let you kind of take the floor and towards the end with just a quarterbacking in this district. The junior passed for 438 yards and 6 touchdowns. You figure this, 5 games, a pair of 200-yard games, a 300-yard game, a 500-yard game, and now a 400-yard game. I love seeing Jai Jones. He broke into that century mark. That was great to see. 6 catches. Skylar Armida, he goes nuts as well. Just he's using his receivers. They're going downfield. And I think Chase Ochoa might be that guy in the backfield who can get you 2 or 3 yards or who can burst for 10 or 11. They need somebody else as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to remember and figure out what the leading returner for passing yards in Arizona was last season, because we are at the officially at the midway point of the season, and Will Mencl already has almost 200 yards, which is pretty insane. I don't think you see that every day.
Mm-mm.
Um, let's see. I'm trying to find a quick Max Prep search here. The returner in 6A would be Brady Goodman, who had 3,087
And while you're
yards
looking at that,
at
I'll just, I mean, just the receiving core is nice.
yeah, and so Brady Goodman obviously 3,000. Will Mencl is a third of the way there, halfway through the year. So I presume that he's going to continue to play at the level he has been, and
Mhm.
probably surmount that number. And I believe that Will's playing like the best quarterback in Arizona right now, and the receiving core app that he has absolutely been a huge part of that. Maxwell Sprott, Chase
Yeah.
Ochoa, Skylar Ormita, Jai Jones. I mean, there's just so many weapons, and Chandler is executing their passing game to perfection. Ty Wisdom has done a phenomenal job coming in and orchestrating this offense. Their defense as well. I think that they're going to be the part of the game that just needs to step up just a little bit more. I know they were without a couple of players last week against San Jose O'Connor. And I think another thing for Chandler maybe to look at is the amount of points they've allowed per game. I think when we get into this latter end of the season, you're going to want to turn up the intensity a little bit defensively. But other than that, this offense is just cruising Chandler to where they need to be. And without a doubt, one of the top 4 teams in the state right now, right behind Hamilton. In
Yes, I
my
was going to
opinion.
say there's no doubt they belong in that 4. If the season ended today, they would not be playing in that first round of the Open. They get the week off, that's for sure. Another team that will probably get that week off, the Hamilton Huskies. Here we go again. They victimized Centennial 50-10. Jack Scully, 327 last week, 345 this week. Skylar Cole, 180 with 2 touchdowns. Roy Oliver, every week he's doing it, 4 touchdowns, 10 catches, 187 yards. It's a broken record in a
It's
great way.
ridiculous.
Yes, I'll let you run with it, Adam. It's great to see. Terrific to see.
Like Ralph said last week, and at the time, and you told me to run with it, I think Hamilton just ran for another 7 touchdowns. So, it truly is unexplainable. The firepower in which this Husky team has been performing at the last couple of weeks. One of the best players in the state of Arizona, maybe the best player right now in the state of Arizona, and Roy Oliver, what he's been able to do. I think teams has now learned to not let Hamilton go down 3-0 in the first quarter, because that's happened back-to-back weeks, and they've come back to just stomp on the opposing team. This Hamilton team is on a roll. Jack Scully is right behind. I know you said we were going to talk about the quarterback situation later, but when's the last time you saw the 2 starting quarterbacks on Arizona Avenue be the number 1 leading passer in the state and the 2nd leading passer in the state? It's quite ridiculous.
No, you're right.
So
It's
to see what Hamilton's been able to do without also some of their key players on defense, who I know have missed spurts of the season, is incredible. And the only way for Hamilton to keep climbing is to keep beating some of the best teams. Obviously, we've talked about that October 24th matchup between Basha. That seems to probably be the pivotal game in which will set the tone of the season. Liberty plays Centennial as well on the 10th. So between the 3 matches with Liberty, Centennial, Basha, Hamilton, and Hamilton Chandler, that is going to be the way this season is set in stone. The playoffs, I should say, the postseason.
correct. What I like about Hamilton's schedule, they have 2 games which could be running clocks, probably. Valley Vista this Friday night and Cesar Chavez. Then they've got 3 challenges. So it's a nice balance of, hey, we're going to see some teams that we could see in the postseason, but we've also got a couple of teams in which you guys can eat.
Absolutely.
So it'll definitely be good stuff. Cool deal. And last but certainly not least, the Basha Bears. They're 5-0 after a 35-13 win over Queen Creek. Typical Bears. They score early and often, 14-0 after a quarter, 28-0 at the half. Brody Veers, 270 in the air, 4 touchdowns. Joshua Gaines, what a story he is. senior running back, 115 yards and a touchdown. Defensively, 4.5 sacks and an interception as a team. Really complete game by Chris McDonald's squad.
Yeah, and don't let the fact that Basha didn't put up 50 or 60 like Hamilton has distract you from the fact that this is a really good team. Basha pulled their starters after they went up 35-0 right after halftime. So I think that should tell you the tale. As Basha is getting it done with their first and second team, they have been all season long. Orange Lutheran as well. I think you can go back. That's the only game this season in which Basha's starters have played the entire game. This is a team, I think what's going to benefit because of that is that, their starters aren't going to be as beaten up as maybe some of the other starters in the state are because of how long, or I guess because they've had to play complete games. In Hamilton's case, I don't really think they need to have their first string in when they're up, 40-10, but they choose to. And like Brophy, they continue to lay it on even until the final minute. So what's going to pay off for Basha is the fact that all of their guys are eating, all of their guys are getting time, and that's what's going to make them very well rounded. And I think that's what makes them kind of the team to beat right now in the state of Arizona.
Next game is on Friday at Westwood. Last time they played them was the 2023 opener, 66-7 win over the Warriors. The quarterbacking, you mentioned Arizona Avenue, but even aside from Arizona Avenue, look at what Brody Veers is doing, what Evan Heinrich has done. This quarterbacking that we're seeing is just awesome. I mean, look at what Kael Snyder can do and has done. It's just a lot of fun, man. It really is.
It is a lot of fun. And, in my time covering Arizona high school football, which hasn't been a super long time, I don't think we've had, each quarterback at each big school, step up the way that he has. I think, we go back to the year with Dylan Raiola and Damon Williams and what would have been a Rock Chwalski / Beckham Pellant year at Hamilton. I couldn't even tell you, to be honest, who the Perry quarterback was that year. But to see this year where we have the top two leading passers in the state at Chandler and Hamilton with Jack Scully and Will Mencl, Kael Snyder at Perry, Brody Veers at Basha, Casteel will get a guy in T. Smith who will come on here in a bit, Evan Heinrich as well. Just domination through each level. I think that's been the story is Chandler, not only the quarterbacks, but the Chandler schools have been dominating this season. And it's just fun to watch. It is, like, I know Ralph says it all the time. Football in the state of Arizona is better when the Chandler schools are at the top. And I absolutely agree.
Yes, definitely. And we'll even throw in another quarterback, Chandler Prep, we talk about every now and then. They're now 4-2 on the year, a 49-0 whitewash, a road shutout at Bisbee. Joey Busani, he led the way with a couple of rushing touchdowns with their quarterback. Junior Cody Dodson had a pair of touchdown passes. I'm not ready to put him in that grouping of the Arizona Avenue quarterbacks, but at the same time, just the stability that Chandler Prep is showing with Coach Ader, it's a lot of fun. It really is. This is a very good offensive year. Hopefully it will result in, I'm going to say, a championship for one of these teams at the very least. But what we're seeing is really good. The breakup of regions, more wins are being added more than likely to these teams. So halfway through, it seems to be no stopping. It really is. It's good stuff. Adam, we breezed through it. We said that this would probably be a quicker podcast because it's just me and you. We don't have the round robin. We always appreciate that extra insight. But where are you going to be this Friday night?
I actually don't know yet. I'm still debating. There's a lot of schools are on fall break this week.
Yes.
And I try to plan my schedule at the beginning of the season. But obviously things happen, unexpected. Teams perform unexpectedly better or not to where maybe I thought they would. So I actually don't know where I'm going Thursday or Friday yet. So stay tuned. We'll see. I'll probably decide it the day of.
Like NBC, you're allowed to flex your schedule.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You certainly can. Not a problem at all. Well, we definitely want to say, hey, thanks to Podworks Studios. We will be back with you guys in a few weeks, but we really appreciate being there. We appreciate your support, and obviously just The whole community effort has been really good, just keeping this going. We look forward to having Ralph Amsden back with us. And Adam, as always, great chopping it up with you. It's like I'm old school, you're new school, but we mash. So
I can't give you a high five though. That's the thing.
Not this time
on the screen. So
very true. But we'll see you guys on the field. Adam, be well. I'll see you next week, my man.
Sounds great.